Hello, I'm Kevin Worthington in Pickens County, Alabama for another episode of Ask a Farmer. Today our farmer is Mike D. of D River Ranch just outside of Aliceville. Mike, thanks for having us out today. Tell us a little about your operation.
Well, thank you for coming out, Kevin. This is a family-owned farm that we're on. We farm between the Tennessee-Tombigbee Waterway and we farm into Mississippi. I own this with my brothers and sisters, and I farm with my sister Annie and her two sons here on the edge of the Black Belt Prairie.
What are you primarily producing on your farm?
We primarily raise corn and soybeans, and we have a commercial beef cow operation.
Okay. Well, a diversified farm, we've got some diversified questions for you. Kathy Gray wants to know what percentage of Alabama products go overseas?
Percentage-wise, I'm not sure, Kevin, but ag products, we exported $1.3 billion of ag products out of Alabama overseas last year, but timber, beef, cattle and calves, soybeans, cotton, some nursery and sod. But one of the amazing things is how much of our product we use here, Kevin. We raise a lot of corn right here, but if we kept all the corn we raised in Alabama, in the state of Alabama, we could support our growing poultry industry for about a week right now. So we raise about 2% of the corn we use in the state.
That is really amazing.
It is.
Next up, Jennifer Jarman Stephens wants to know, how do you fight drought in Alabama for your crops to remain productive?
Well, fighting Mother Nature, I think, is kind of a losing battle, Kevin. We try not to fight Mother Nature, but we try to work with it the best we can to mitigate the things that we have control over. We have added a lot of irrigation so we can capture this winter rain we have and utilize it in the summer during the growing season when we need it. And we try to plant varieties of corn or beans that are suitable for our climate and our heat that we can manage the best for our area.
On the opposite side of that, this year has been particularly wet during the winter months. Does that cause you problems as well?
The biggest risk right now is we tend to get most of our moisture in the late fall to early spring and through the winter. We try to capture some of that in reservoirs that we can utilize when we're growing, but as it stays wet through the spring, one of our bigger risks is delaying our planting, which delays plant development on into the heat of the summer. And so we hope to get us planted as early as we can in the spring to utilize that soil moisture and to work with our climate.
All right, well, Brad Holmes wants to know, what's the biggest change that's happened in farming since you started feeding Alabama?
In the last 25 years since I've been farming, Kevin, technology has exploded in agriculture. Our equipment is one thing that helps us place our seed and fertilizer more accurately, where we can run bigger equipment and utilize precision placement of our inputs and the genetics in seed that we raise. We're trying to raise seed that are more suitable for our climate and our growing region, and that we can use less insecticide and less herbicides on, where we can be more sustainable and more productive with the acreage we have right here to keep on feeding a growing population.
It's interesting that you talk about technology. Most people think about the electronics on a tractor or a combine, but a lot of technology goes into that seed.
It does. The equipment helps us place it more accurately and do a better job with it, but we've made great strides in production agriculture, in seed and being able to stand better.
All right, well, Mike D., thank you for having us out to D River Ranch today. If you have a question for an Alabama farmer, just drop us an email at askafarmer@simplysouthern.tv.net. In Pickens County, I'm Kevin Worthington for Simply Southern.
There's nothing quite like sitting down to a home-cooked meal with fresh vegetables from the garden. With Bonnie plants from your local quality co-op store, you can enjoy the freshest vegetables right from your own backyard. And no matter if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, your quality co-op store has exactly what you need to get the most out of your plants. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
FFA makes a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education.
We're strengthening American agriculture and providing our members with the skills needed to build healthy local communities, a strong nation, and a sustainable world.
We are the next generation of agriculture.
It's our turn now.
Let's show the world what we can achieve together.
We are FFA.
The versatile peanut, meat of the earth, friend of the soil, tasty, nutritious, packed with protein. And Alabama peanut farmers nourish some very special things: families, communities, and Alabama's economy. Peanuts. Good for you, good for Alabama.
For more Simply Southern, be sure to follow us on social media. And while you're online, visit our website, simplysouthern.tv.net. Simply Southern will continue in a moment.
We believe a plant should be more than a plant. This one is. It's all you need for your garden to succeed because it's a Bonnie plant. It represents hundreds of varieties of Bonnie's quality veggies and herbs. But more, it's from generations of Bonnie people who are passionate about sharing their love of gardening with you. Look for this little Bonnie plant and a whole family of plants like it in your garden center. Bonnie plants, so you'll know how to grow.
Welcome back to Simply Southern, and today we have Sydney Phelps in the studio to answer viewer-submitted gardening questions.
Sydney, good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Got a question here from Myra Mason. My 6-year-old grandson is interested in planting a few plants for the fall. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I think the fact that her 6-year-old grandson's wanting to get involved in gardening is awesome. Starting out for fall, I think you've got a couple of different ways to look at this. Bonnie does the cabbage program for 3rd graders. Obviously, being 6 years old, he's not going to be in the cabbage program, but it's a great way to show kids how things will get ready over time, especially in the fall. But aside from that, you really want to get items first that they like. So whatever vegetables that he likes, if it's something that can be grown, use that because he's going to have involvement, entertainment in that. The other thing is finding things that grow fast. Obviously, an attention span for a 6-year-old or young kids is going to be limited, so things that they can see the results quickly. So I would say lettuces, spinach, arugula. Swiss chard is really cool because it's so many different colors, so that gets them active in that. But you can do all the traditional cool season veggies depending on how big you want to do this. If you want to do a small container, I used to do things with my nephews of a salad garden, so they'd have a broccoli, lettuce, arugula, all the different things you'd put in a salad in a container, and it was theirs. They owned it. So something like that would be cool. Another thing to think about in that is to involve herbs. So cool season herbs, you have mint, thyme, oregano. This is something they can smell, they can taste immediately. They're not waiting for anything to go through. And then if their parents are cooking, grilling that night, and he wants to go harvest this, he can actually harvest it and feel like he's bringing something to the table. So it's a good way to get kids involved, get them active. I wish this was happening more. It's a great way for kids to understand where their vegetables come from.
All right, good tips there. We also received an email from Lisa Haynes. She says, my mama and I enjoy watching Simply Southern, and they've learned a lot from your segments, Sydney. Could you tell them how to care for their raspberry and strawberry plants? They've actually had those plants for years. They're just not producing like they used to.
Okay, well, first thing we need to figure out how long they've had them. When you're dealing with strawberries, raspberries especially, raspberries basically become like a shrub. They can get to the point where they overcrowd the root system. Think about a hosta or something like that. You have to come through and you have to split them up. So basically they just overcrowded. The roots don't breathe, they don't move, they kind of get stagnant and they just don't produce. So the first thing I would say is if they've been there for a long time, as she's telling us, go through in the non-dormant portion of the year or the dormant portion of the year and start to dig out sections, pull sections out to allow roots to get growing and be more vigorous. You give them to neighbors, especially raspberry bushes. The other thing is looking at how you're feeding the plant. So make sure that you're using a good fertilizer, check the soil test around the area, but if you want more production, something with a higher phosphorus number, so that middle number versus the nitrogen, that's the first number, in the fertilizer profile, that's going to allow for better production, more blooms, more offset. So, but it sounds like they've just gotten root brown for the most part. So I would clean that up and make sure that they have got that ready to go.
Got a question here from Carol Iliano. Says, could you please ask Bonnie plants, why would cucumbers turn yellow? We have a ground garden box.
Ground garden box, we've talked about this before, probably lack of nutrition. Could be overwatering too, because those are self-watering containers. So add a little bit more fertilizer to the top side of this and maybe just dry it out, let it dry out. That'll keep that, but you can see the production in the leaves. If the leaves are yellow, it's overwatered or under-fertilized.
Sydney, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
You can find Bonnie plants at your local Alabama Farmers Cooperative stores. Visit alafarm.com to find a location near you.
For the latest farm and agriculture news, be sure to visit the Alabama Farmers Federation's website at alphafarmers.org.
And with that, Mary, we're out of time. Folks, be sure to join us next week as we feature a talented young lady who recently published her first book. I think you may have heard of her.
Whoever could you mean, Jim? We'll also take you to a big celebration of Alabama's only memorial to an insect. I'm Mary Wilson.
And I'm Jim Allen. We'll see you next week.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.